Hello, I'm PDYX.
And I'm AntKeepsGaming, and welcome to Playing It Wrong, the show where we play random online Nintendo games and talk about them.
That's right, each episode we're going to take one random NES game and one random SNES game from the games available on the NSO service on the Nintendo Switch, and we're going to play them for at least 30 minutes each and talk about our opinions of those games.
Playing It Wrong, Episode 1.
Alright, we are picking our first games.
Yes.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah, okay, so how do I do this? This is high tech for me for Excel. I've never known a random generizer. I don't know why I'm saying it.
Randomizer. It's very high tech.
For me, anyway.
We have a spreadsheet, and this spreadsheet, every time you update the spreadsheet, it changes the random things. So our NES game is Clu Clu Land.
What is that?
Clu Clu Land is apparently a Western exclusive.
I've never heard of this.
You never heard of Clu Clu Land?
No. As I said before, I've never grew up with like an NES or SNES. Never. I grew up with any of these. I grew up with a Genesis.
I am looking at it right now.
Found
it looks kind of like a Pac-Man clone or something.
Something.
It looks like a single screen thing. I don't know. We will find out more. And our SNES game is Super Tennis.
Okay, let me have a look at that. Oh god, this is so confused. The controls to get back to the game selection is even more confusing. I've never been on this online, Nintendo Online.
Yeah, the little app.
Can I just get out of this now?
Yeah, it's like a bunch of non-helpful UI, basically.
Yeah. Right, I'm going to go into this right now. I'm just wasting people's time now.
So Super Tennis is obviously a tennis game that was like a first-party Nintendo tennis game.
Okay.
That's not like a Mario tennis game. It's like you're playing as like, I don't know, more realistic-looking pixel art people.
Right.
Which I don't think I've ever played Super Tennis. I feel like I might have, but if I have, I don't remember. I will probably remember later in this episode when we actually play these games and talk about it.
I think the only tennis game that I have ever played in my life is on the Dreamcast. I think that's the only one. I don't think I've played any like ones before that. I've played lots of
or since.
So I've played lots of soccer games and stuff, but I haven't played any. No, I haven't played any tennis games at all. I think that's the only one I played. I've never played any Mario ones or anything. I'm very out of the tennis realm here.
Clu Clu Land and Super Tennis. So we're off to play these games, and we'll continue our episode once we've played them, and we'll talk all about it.
We'll find out if they're wrong.
So this first week of playing it wrong, we played two interesting games. For the NES, it was Clu Clu Land. And for the SNES, it was Super Tennis. All right. And what did you think?
This is why I'm laughing already. It's like, we played these games. It's like, as I said because I played Super Tennis first because I thought maybe Clu Clu Clan was, would be a bit better because I've never spoke to you before, never played a tennis game like since like Dreamcast, and I haven't played a tennis game lately. I don't really follow tennis, so I don't know what the rules are. So I thought tennis first, let's get this out of the way, the sports game. I'm not a sporty person myself, even though, I do go to the gym, but I'm not a sporty person. And as I said on the beginning of my video, I said, I've never had an NES or SNES. I'm a Sega lad. I'm going to say Sega lad, actually. So I'm not a Sega fanboy, Sega lad. And to play these games is good. I've always wanted to play, do something with online Nintendo games, and I thought, yeah, cool. It'd be a good way. And thank you for reaching out as well to do this with. So,
of course.
But yeah, Super Tennis. I was going to do it how would you say it? In order of when they came out, so like because the NES, Clu Clu Clan, and SNES. But I thought, no, let's do the sports game. Let's get the sports game.
Sure.
So, Super Tennis. I am horrible at that game.
It's hard,
It's so hard.
It is hard. I mean, for everybody listening, we instituted a rule that we're going to play at least 30 minutes of these games, and I think this week is why. these games are not fun.
They're not fun, but I know we agreed upon if it's a game we didn't enjoy, we can do less than half hour. I didn't do the full 30 minutes, but I did 27. So
I didn't really even time myself. I just kind of tried as hard as I could on both of these games to play as long as I could, and was very happy to be done.
Yes, agreed. I actually thought Clu Clu Land was actually going to be better.
Oh goodness, no, it's not. Well, so big picture, both these games are not that much fun. They don't hold up, not at all. What's funny is let's focus on Super Tennis first, since you talked about that one first.
Yeah, so Super Tennis. No matter what I did, if I was serving or I was getting served to, it was always a fault. I was like, how? Why? What?
Yeah. I haven't watched everybody also, if you want to watch AntKeepsGaming struggle to play these games, he streamed them, and I assume that will be up on your YouTube.
Yeah, I streamed, but I've recorded the two games, so they're recorded / streams still. See if that makes any sense.
Gotcha.
To anybody
on Twitch, you can go find them.
Yeah, YouTube channel AntKeepsGaming. Okay. I put them on all my streams on there, and anything I do on Twitch. So yeah.
I didn't want to watch you play them because I knew we were going to talk about it, and I didn't want to be spoiled from your experience. But I did watch like a minute of you playing Super Tennis, and I was like, "Yep, that's what happened to me too." Like I missed a lot of shots, I got lots of faults, and one of the problems with playing any of these games online is that this is the manual age. So there were manuals for these games. There's zero tutorial in either game. Yeah. There's no explanation of how to play the game, and so, like, I looked it up later, and I was like, "Oh, actually, if you push on the D-pad, that affects your shots and stuff in tennis." Oh. That would have been nice to know.
I mean, as soon as I played it, it was like there was no tutorial, there was no difficulty settings. They just threw you into it straight away.
So, tip to both of us in the future: we might want to look up at the manuals before we dive into the next.
No, we're pro gamers. We don't.
Well, but yeah, there's that. Like, I don't need that, but you kind of do need it on these old games. Yeah. And it was just not fun because it was so hard, and I could not seem to ever win anything. Like, I might score a point every once in a while.
Yeah.
No, like. What's really funny too is I went and looked it up too, and I was like reading like reviews of it at the time. It's like, this is the best tennis game ever. It controls really well, and stuff like that. Where you're like, man, we've come a ways in the last 20, 30 years. I guess it's 30 at this point. That's
question. How much has Nintendo paid you to say that?
Well, I'm just saying video games have come a long way in the last 30 years. But Nintendo games too, because honestly, playing like, Mario Tennis Aces, which I spent some time in that game, is so much easier to control and intuitive compared to this, where like I would run up to the ball, push a button, and still miss the just empty swing.
It's the same as anything though. It's with me when I was serving, fault. When I was getting served to, fault. I moved when they were serving, fault. I looked at the guy funny, fault. Everything was a fault. It's like, that's the reason why I lost. Everything was a fault. Yeah.
I also was like, when you pick the characters, I was like, these are all white people. There's no racial diversity. But then I looked up the game later, and apparently they're all based on like, I don't know what you call it, like the not the popular, but like the successful or the best tennis players at the time.
Oh, really? I thought they were just a bunch of random people.
Yeah, me too. But apparently they're like little chibi versions of, the then best tennis players in the world. Or I think I read that somewhere when I was reading about the game. So.
This is where we need Matt to say, like, the list of all the popular tennis players.
All the tennis players. Which I'm sure they didn't have the rights to use their likenesses, and maybe that's why they were, like, not exact. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah. But, that's why they don't have, their full names or something. But
just a question for you. Did you do all modes? I did singles, doubles, and circuit. I did terrible in all three.
Right. I did two modes. I did singles and doubles. I didn't even bother to try like the circuit mode because I was like, if I can't win a single match, and then playing doubles mode, we should talk about that.
Yeah,
because it's like the computer did all the work for me.
Yeah,
same. If the computer is like in the front, right by the net, they would do everything, and then I actually had a chance of winning.
Yeah, that was.
But if I was in the front, we were screwed.
Yeah, that was the same with me. When doubles was actually a bit more easier than it was singles. I actually thought I had a bit of a chance.
Yeah,
but no, I didn't.
Yeah, so I don't recommend anybody go play Super Tennis unless you're just like, really a big fan of tennis players in 1991 and want to play as one of them. So
there's going to be someone out there saying this is still the best tennis game. Oh, I've got so many memories of this and stuff like this. I even said on my video on it when you guys see on YouTube, I even said whoever played this game and thought it was a good game or completed the circuit, big shout out to you, because I'm never going to do it.
Yeah. What's funny is like, I think there's a small chance that I had this game. I don't remember it well though. I know I had like a couple games like this at that time. But I don't think I did, because I think it would have come back to me watching it and stuff. But I don't really have much else to say about Super Tennis. It was just
not really.
Like you said, I played 20 to 30 minutes and was like, okay, don't really want to struggle through this anymore.
Yeah, it was painful. I tried to stick out to the full half hour. Nearly did 27. Because I've recorded, I can actually see it right in front of me. This is 27 minutes and 28 seconds. So, so if you want to see like a grown man near enough crying at Super Tennis for the Super Nintendo, it's just, I can't even say the word. It just broke. It didn't break me, but it was kind of like no hope of winning. There was just no hope for me at all. So I don't think it. I just couldn't believe it. But I said, I think these are the two games were especially hard. I mean, going into this, I think that was my only thing about playing old games. I know back in the day they were hard, and to play them now is like, really, they were that hard? Yeah, they were. and it's the manual problem too, right? Like I wish I had actually looked up, because I figured, I'll figure out which kind of shot's which, and I figured out that's a lob shot and that's maybe a backhand or whatever, but it's still like something was going on, and I looked at it. It's the control. Like you can control other things with the D-pad. And it's like, oh, I never would have guessed that. Yeah, I mean, I'd never guessed that. I know it was A and B, and it looked like different shots, but I wasn't quite sure if I was doing anything differently.
Yeah, and it didn't seem to matter.
Yeah, it didn't seem to matter. That's all.
I did get in a rhythm where the only points I was scoring were lob shots over their head for a little bit, like if they were up front, but. That's Super Tennis. Let's talk about Clu Clu Land, which is a game I never heard of, really.
I've seen the cover, but I've seen the cover, so maybe that can give me a few points. But I haven't played the game.
But both of these games, by the way, I think are actually like actual Nintendo games, like developed, published by Nintendo. So that's cool, I guess, or interesting, relevant to the name and the podcast. But Clu Clu Land. Ooh, this is kind of like a Pac-Man-esque game. Yeah,
it's really weird. It's like Pac-Man, but you have to hold down a direction button to turn yourself on one of the posts where you're going.
We'll talk about the controls, because that's...
Oh my god.
This game's controls. This is where a game shows its age. But like the general gameplay is, like you said, there's like you're moving around on this sort of grid, and there are... I don't know what they are. Enemies.
Like viruses or something? I don't know.
Yeah, little circular spiky enemies that you can that kill you if you run into them.
And you're constantly moving, so you're not like moving yourself until you like move a direction when you hold it a certain way.
You're auto moving, yeah. And so you have to like change directions and to avoid them. And what you're trying to do is like they kind of seem like coins or crystals or something, like trying to make a picture. Yeah,
so you got to navigate the maze, if you call it a maze, the maze while avoiding the two virus spiky ball things, along with making a pattern out of these coins, or maybe even called barriers, because I didn't know if you noticed this, but when the spiky ball things hit, people get triggered by calling them spiky ball things. If they hit one of those gold things, that actually turns those enemies back in the opposite direction, which I didn't know. So I can actually box some enemies in if I was in a certain pattern, which I didn't know what the pattern was because it's randomized each time.
Yeah.
But what annoyed me the most was you got these like springboard things. You go,
Yep.
yes, I'm gonna do the pattern, and all of a sudden they just come out of nowhere. I think they're random as well, and it just bounced me backwards. So I was like, thanks.
I just looked it up, and they're urchins apparently.
Oh,
the
urchins.
enemies. They're like a particular type of urchin. I don't know if they're real ones or whatever, but like, so yeah, like you're trying to create this picture basically, and like the first, like you said, it's not always the same, but it seemed like the first one was either a smiley face or something else.
Yeah, I think the ones I had was a house.
Yeah,
I think one was a tree, smiley face, glasses was another one. I think I got to level 4, I think.
Congratulations, because I only made it to level 2.
But hear me out. If everyone watches that video as well, hear me out. I did cheat. I did use the rewind feature because the thing is, it was so hard that you had to. That's the only way to do it, to get as far and to get used to the controls. But then, when I went back to do it like a few other levels, I didn't even need to do that, which was quite interesting, which we'll talk about more later. But yeah, you got like the pattern you had to do, you got dodgy enemies, but also you got 2 portals and then bouncy things.
Yeah, there's also the portal thing that can kill you.
But it's good you can hover over them, but you just can't let go to go directly into them, which, is annoying.
So I think the thing we're dancing around I want to talk about is the controls in this game.
Oh, God.
And this is really interesting because unrelatedly, I was just reading about, controls in video games and thinking about it. And I found some, I don't know if it was Wikipedia or somewhere I was reading about this. It was like, when video games first started, people weren't sure whether to make controls relative to the player or relative to the character on the screen. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And everybody's kind of settled on, and most games now, or almost every game now, is relative to you as the player. Like if you push left on the stick, your character will move left to your perspective. But this game is relative to the character.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't know, this may not make sense because it's confusing. And I remember reading about this and being like, that doesn't really make sense. I'm confused. But then I played this game and I was like, oh, I see. This is super unintuitive because when you push left, it's relative to the character. And again, this may not be making sense to the listener, but it's so unintuitive, right? Like back me up here. Like every time I tried to hook onto one of the things to change directions, it would be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, that as well. There's no up or down as well. I mean, you can go up and down, but that's automatic. But there's only left and right to turn you round, which I found out because I tried pressing up a few times when I was going like on the bottom of the maze, and I was pressing. I don't know why I was pressing up, or maybe it was up, but I found it was more left and right. Which you have to hold down to rotate.
Yeah, and you kind of have to hold it. Yeah,
have to rotate
because they're hooking onto these little things on the grid. The character is, and using that to go around. Oh my gosh. It just, I could not get it. And I think it's because it's an old style of controls that, that people realized isn't as intuitive and has been dropped. And so, 35 years of video games have trained me to play differently or whatever, like, oh my gosh. Awful. Do not recommend this game.
No. I think the 2 we started off with were probably, I don't want to say worse games, but it's definitely some challenging games. Definitely those 2, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a decent amount of these in this pool of games we have here. Like, there's some really good gems in here, especially in the SNES era, but ooh boy, our NES games are going to be a lot like this, I think.
Yeah, and especially with me, I said I've never played any of these. I said the only game I ever played on any of these consoles growing up was Mario. That was the mainstream one. So this is all new to me, and it's a sports game and another game I've never heard of, seen the cover but never played. It's just interesting and weird at the same time, and first time experience. So as well for myself.
Yeah. I think for me, the lesson here is how much video games have improved. You know what I mean? Yeah. The fact that both of these were, or at least Super Tennis, and I didn't really look up Clu Clu Land, how well it was received, but like that both of these were thought of as good games, or you know what I mean? And that people sat down and mastered them and that kind of thing. Whereas now it's just, they don't hold up.
No, 100% not. So especially because I know with some games that I played, to get good at a game, you had to play them like over and over again. And going back to the point I made with Clu Clu Land, when I did the rewind feature, it was only for that because I actually didn't know about it until it popped to the screen. Did you know you could use this rewind feature? I'm like, ooh, hello. Right. So
hey, that's fair game in this podcast. I feel like, I mean, because it's gonna it makes up for the clunkiness of some of these games.
Yeah, and it's very good they implemented that because. I felt like I needed it a few times to get used to the controls. And actually, when I went through the third time to try to get to stage 4, I did. In the end, I actually didn't get any sort of game over, but then I could be wrong and I could have used a rewind feature. One thing about me, I've got a very bad memory, so you guys let me know on the video anyway. But and even that, I know we're going to bit off topic with this, but even the controls for the rewind feature, I would not... It's very temperamental. Like, you got to press both shoulder buttons. But if you don't press one harder than the other, then you bring up another different menu. I think they should have decided a different menu to that.
Right.
So,
well, I don't think that's cheating for our purposes. We're just trying to play around with these games, and it makes them more enjoyable, or even enjoyable at all. Then that's great. And I've played through a few games using them just because, like you said, older games were often a lot more difficult, and it's like, I don't want to have to restart every level or like restart or lose my whole game, or some of it's like, I just want to play through these games and experience them, not necessarily, with all the death and restarting.
Well, I've wanted to do this anyway. So that's why I'm so glad you reached out to me for it. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely up for this. I've always wanted to do it because I said, no, I didn't grow up with Nintendo consoles. Sega consoles was me, was me. I don't know what I'm saying. I said Sega lad. And I think that I think it was Nintendo 64 was the Nintendo console I started with. So growing up.
Cool. Well, anything else you want to say about either of these games or your experience with them?
Don't play them if you want to have a bad time. Even if you think you're good at tennis, you really won't be good at Super Tennis. And a big shout out to the guys that actually played it properly back in the day. So.
Yeah, if somebody has any comments about it, we'd love to hear from them. Let us know. But you ready to pick our next games for the next episode? Should we do that right now?
Let's do it.
Okay, I'm gonna hit the randomizer here.
Insert sound here, like a drum roll or something.
Kid Icarus is our NES game.
Ooh.
And Demon's Crest is our SNES game.
Heard of Kid Icarus, but the other one, not at all.
Yeah, Kid Icarus is a pretty big game. I actually played a little bit of Kid Icarus as a kid. Okay. I did not own it, but I played it at friends' houses, but not enough to for this to be pointless for me, because I don't remember it very well. I don't think I ever played Demon's Crest though. So Demon's Crest I think might be like a RPG, but maybe it's more of an no, it looks like it's an action game. It's like an action platformer. Yeah.
Oh, it's got Firebird in it. I know that from Marvel vs. Capcom. Isn't that? I think maybe. It's like a Ghosts and Goblins sort of game.
Yeah. It kind of looks like it's like that sort of style game at least. Oh yeah. It even seems to be like maybe even in the same
Altered Beast
universe maybe. Or whatever. Yeah, does kind of have an Altered Beast look and feel to it too.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, those are our games. Next tune in next time, and we'll see if we have a better time with Kid Icarus and Demon's Crest than we did with Clu Clu Land and Super Tennis. I have a feeling we will. I'm not sure it'll be a lot better. What do you predict?
I mean, Demon's Crest looks interesting. If it's the Kid Icarus that I think it's going to be, I have seen someone play that. So, but again, I think maybe you have a better time maybe with these ones.
It's the old one, and I remember it being hard. I mean, all those NES games are going to be hard. They're all going to be hard. But like, at least I think I have a chance of getting past level 1. I hope, maybe.
Well, I'm going to use the rewind feature, so I don't know.
Yeah, no hesitation to use that. Yeah. Thanks for listening to Playing It Wrong. This podcast is a collaboration between Super Switchheads and AntKeepsGaming. Check out the weekly Super Switchheads podcast, and also check out AntKeepsGaming on Twitch and YouTube. Our music is provided by Bent Neatly. Thanks again. Bye.